This is Hands Like Hide, a podcast for men who know the weight of a long day, the ache of sore hands, and the pull for something more. Through raw stories, biblical truth, and practical wisdom, we explore recovery, growth, and how to become the man you were intended to be. Because every job teaches, and every story has the power to transform you and everyone you lead. Let's get to work. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I just want to start this episode today by saying Happy Father's Day. If you're a dad or soon to be dad or one day want to be a dad, I just want to give you this little piece as we're kicking this whole thing off right now. And that is the greatest thing you can do for your kids and for your family on Father's Day is not have this attitude of like what they can do for me. One of the best things you can do is give them a gift. Give them a gift of your time, of your attention, of your love, of your energy. Serve them. Lead them by serving them. So happy Father's Day to you. I wish you the best. Well, this is the Hands Like Hide podcast, and I'm your host, Charlie Pfeiffer, and I'm so thankful that you're here with me today. Today, we're gonna get into something a little bit different. Let me set this up for you like this. Imagine that you are going about your day, and it's the summertime, and it is hot out, and you just want a tall glass of water, and you're thirsty. And so I come to you and I say, here it is, nice, fresh, clean, spring water, glass of water. And it's running water down. You know how like on a hot day and that glass of water sweats, and there's like moisture running down the outside of this glass. Say, hey man, this is for you. And you take a drink of this water and you're just, as you're drinking it down, it's a big gulp, second, third big gulp. I mean, you're thirsty. And it's just like, something's not right with this water. It looks clean, it looks good. But as you're tasting it, as you're drinking it, something's not right with this water. But I tell you, no, dude, there's nothing wrong with that water, man. That is some good water. Drink up. I could tell you're thirsty. But just something's not right with this water. Imagine, I know, that before I gave you this glass of water, I put one drop from a dropper or syringe. I put one drop of septic water in it. It's not enough to kill you, right? After all, you drank the glass of water. It just tasted a little funny. That's like a secret. That's what secrets do to us. That's what we're going to talk about today. Secrets. They poison, right? From the inside out. Even if it looks fine on the outside. Even if you no worries. But the closer you get to a person, the closer you get to someone who's keeping a secret, it's like that drop of septic water in that glass. Something's not right. Something's not right. This is what we're going to talk about today. Let me kick it off with you like this. There's this story of Amu Haji. He's also known as Arman. He's passed away now, whatever. But what's really amazing about this guy, he lived in Iran, and he didn't bathe. He didn't take a bath for 60 years. 60 years, he did not take a bath. And he lived as a hermit, rightfully so. And he smoked dried dung. I mean, for crying out loud. So my wife and I, we have a horse farm, and there's 11 horses on our property. And a horse, I don't know, fun fact, makes 40 pounds of manure a day, something like that. And, if you've been around Amish country or whatever, or have gone to a fair or whatever, horses, they just leave these little balls, essentially, as their dung. And as I was kind of doing this research and prepping for today, I was thinking to myself, like, who in their right mind, like, who in the heck would take dried manure, wrap it up or stuff it in a pipe and think that's a good idea? Let's smoke that. I mean, for crying out loud. But that's what this guy did. He smoked dried manure, and he feared that soap and water would make him sick. In essence, the man has some serious issues. rightfully so, he became a local legend. People from all over the place just kind of knew about him. I mean, you could probably, if you stood 10 miles downwind of him, you could probably smell him. I mean, for crying out loud. I actually have seen a picture of this guy, and it's gnarly. I mean, he is one gnarly looking dude. And so most of us, I'm sure, I know for a fact I wouldn't, right? I take a bath every freaking day, and I'm sure you do too. Most of us bathe every day, and we would not live like Armand physically, right? We wouldn't do that. But what about spiritually, right? What about spiritually or emotionally, like inside you? Secrets, or having like this pet sin or something like that, they make us just as sick. They make us inside just as filthy. And let's unpack this a little bit more. The scientific side of what happens, secrets have power. And the scientific side of that is outlined by like Dr. Ted Roberts or Patrick Carnes. These are some of the leading pioneers with like sexual addiction recovery side of things. Dr. Ted Roberts says, you're only as sick as your secrets. He's quoted that in the book 7 Pillars of Freedom, put out by Pure Desire. You're only as sick as your secrets. And Patrick Carnes, in some of his like pioneer work in Facing the Shadows, he outlines how keeping secrets creates a double life. You're living one way with this group of people, but then you're also living another way when you're by yourself or with a different group of people. I've often heard it said somewhere that like someone who's living in addiction, one of their greatest fears is that they will find themselves in a room with everybody that they know, and they'll start talking about them, and the realization would happen throughout the room. Wait, are we even talking about the same person? Because that's what happens when we keep secrets. We have to, behave and interact in different ways with different people, all to maintain and keep the secret. I know I lived like that for a really long time. Keeping secrets increases anxiety, or shame, compulsive behaviors. Even like in one of my recent episodes, we talked about neuroplasticity and the way the brain changes and things like that. Like neurologically, it reinforces isolation and unhealthy coping mechanisms, and it causes things like stress, anxiety, cortisol. I mean, fatigue. Do you find yourself that by the end of the day just being drained and full of fatigue, especially after you've been around a bunch of different people? Like, and there's nothing wrong with feeling tired after you've been around a bunch of people. Like, I get it. Sometimes people can be exhausting. Like, I understand that. There are I heard this quote this week. One of my, somebody I was working with, he was describing another individual, and he was like, that's who I call that's a low dose person. So he labeled somebody as there's high dose people and there's low dose people, and that's a low dose person. And I just had to chuckle and then realize that, I'm sure in my life there's been tons of times that I have definitely been a low dose person. No doubt. But that's what happens. We have to exercise, all of this emotional energy to manipulate conversations, to behave in ways so that things don't go toward, the realization of what the secret is. And it can really create a lot of problems, a lot of problems in us. To bring in some biblical truth to this whole idea is that, God is a healer. God desires to clean every nook and cranny of our hearts and minds. He wants to transform our characters. Psalms 51:10 is just one of my favorite verses. Right after David got busted, he had a huge secret, didn't he? David slept with another woman. Her name was Bathsheba. And then to cover the whole thing up, he had her husband, who also happened to be his best friend, Uriah, murdered on the front lines to cover the whole thing up. And, the Bible doesn't specifically say how much time went by, between those events and then when Nathan the prophet called him out on it, and basically his secret was exposed. But you can imagine there was a decent amount of time where David was trying to keep this secret covered. And after it all came out to the open, David prays in Psalm 51:10, create in me a clean heart, O God, renew a right spirit within me, right? So he wasn't just trying to say like behavioral on the outside change, right? He wanted that drop of septic water filtered out of his soul, out of his character. That's what he was all about. And even Jesus talks about a little bit in Luke 12 where he says, there's nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, right? So the truth will set you free. Truth needs to come out into the open. I want to just bring this piece to you. There's a I think he was Swiss, politician, philosopher. He kind of was on the higher rankings of Sweden over there. This is an older book that he wrote. It was more like a collection of his journalings. And he has a quote in here that I think is really, really amazing. It says, "You cannot play with the animal in you without becoming a holy animal. Play with falsehood without forfeiting your right to truth. Play with cruelty without losing your sensitivity of mind. He who wants to keep his garden clean doesn't reserve a plot for the weeds." Let's apply that to your life and to my life today, right now. The secret is a plot of weeds in your life. If you had a garden like I did growing up, we've got a little garden here, but my dad was big into gardenings. And we were constantly out there with the hoe, with the rototiller. We were pulling up weeds. We were adding mulch and different stuff to make it easier to pull up weeds. Because what do? Weeds grow. And weeds will overtake and destroy whatever it is you're actually trying to grow that's good, that will produce health, that will produce life, like vegetables, right? Like fruit, like corn, man. Go on a corn feast once. That's good eating. Secrets grow and weeds spread. So let me ask you this question. Why do you keep secrets? If you have a secret in your life, why are you keeping it? What is our motivation for keeping secrets? And in my own experience, in my story, I can tell you why I kept secrets. And you can answer this for yourself. And if this connects with you, awesome. Let me know. Shoot me a message. But I think it boils down to the reason we keep secrets. It comes from this core lie. That if people really knew who I was, they wouldn't love me. I think it's as simple as that. If people knew what I've done, what I've did, what I've said, how I've behaved, if they really knew me, the way I thought, the way I perceived the world, they wouldn't love me. And you come by that honestly too. That kind of stuff comes from childhood. I remember when I was a kid, I can't remember exactly like how this happened, but I ended up not having a pair of church shoes. I grew up in a conservative Christian environment, and we were getting ready to go to church one Saturday morning, and for some reason, like I couldn't find my polished black leather, church shoes that I only wore to go to church. And where we went was you had to look your best, your church clothes. The men wore suits and ties. I mean, it was all to the nines, and all I had to wear was my ratty tennis shoes, and I put my ratty tennis shoes on, and I just remember going to church feeling so much shame over the fact that like I was there in church and I was in my ratty tennis shoes. And I actually remember going up to my teacher at the time, my elementary school teacher at the time, and I just, I viewed her as a really safe person. And I just remember like kind of holding my head down, and I was just kind of like, I feel so bad. I'm at church today in my ratty tennis shoes. And she responded with compassion and grace because she was a really cool teacher. But, she was like, oh, that's okay, Charlie. I don't think anybody will notice. And I think her name was Mrs. Brandt. And she's retired now. But it was just a really cool moment to just, have someone speak some truth and some compassion into my life when I was feeling like if they really knew that I was here at church with ratty shoes on when I am not proper, or, not wearing the right thing, and imagine what they'll say about you. Imagine what they'll think. And man, that's a message that I heard a lot growing up, especially in the religious culture. But it's a lie. But it's a lie, right? Because what other people think ultimately is none of your business. It's none of my business what other people think. We can't control that. It's not our responsibility. You're responsible for what you think and what you feel about other people. It's your responsibility and how you behave and act that out. Because here's the truth, right? We crave being fully seen and accepted. Like, it's a core need. It's a core need of humanity to be seen, to be soothed, to feel safe, to be noticed, to get that somebody gets you, right? And it's like God offers that. Safe, godly people offer that. But a lot of times, see, here's the point. I'm rambling. If you grew up in a family environment where your parents were that, or your siblings or your friends were that, or your teachers were that, safe, godly people, then I don't think you'd be here listening to this podcast. See, I think the reason you're here listening to me right now is because that's not what you had. That's not what I had. That's not what you had. But we still have this need to feel seen and to feel accepted. So we learn to keep secrets. We learn to keep secrets. The problem is, though, that the way reality works is what we protect grows. If we protect the secret, if we protect this sin, then it grows, right? If we expose the secret, the truth will set you free. It shrinks. It loses its power. It's an amazing truth thing. But the amount of fear you got to work through that process to get from point 1 to point 2 takes a lot of courage, a lot of growth. It takes time. So just be gracious with yourself. Imagine this illustration, okay? Imagine with me that you took a shower every day, but you didn't wash a specific spot on your body. Like, you never washed it. Say it's in your armpit. You never washed your armpit. You washed everything else, but you protected your armpit from water. You protected your armpit from getting clean, and you never washed it. What would happen over time? Maybe a month or 2 or 6 months, probably nothing really. But over time, something's going to start happening in your armpit, and it's going to start getting red and irritated and inflamed. And over time, it might turn into an abscess. It might turn into a sore that could eventually get infected. And then what happens then? It starts working its way in, right? And then what happens if it gets in your blood system and it starts circulating throughout your body? Now this little area that you are protecting from being clean has now turned into this infection throughout your entire being, and that is going to affect everything you do, your energy, your concentration, your health, your immune system, your relationship with others. It's going to putrefy everything. Holding on to a secret is like that. That's exactly, even if it's a tiny one, I can tell you, even if it's a tiny secret that you're keeping from one person, that will affect the way you relate to that one person. I promise you. You won't relate with them with genuineness and openness and transparency and vulnerability. No. You're going to protect that secret. So in closing, try this week. I know this is going to be a challenge. It was a challenge for me, but I want to challenge you this. There are people in your life who need the fresh water that you bring. Imagine that you are that tall glass of refreshing spring water. And there's somebody that needs you. There's somebody that needs what you have to offer as a man, as a leader, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a brother. That drop of septic in there will hurt that relationship. It will hurt that person. So this is how you remove that drop of septic. This is how you get rid of that secret. Get with a piece of paper and a pen. It starts there. It's called a secrets inventory. And it's hard work, but do this. Sit down and ask God to search me, to try me, to know my anxious thoughts. Get in touch with that. Ask him to help you work through this, and just start writing them out. Right now, it's just you and the paper and God. The point is to get it from in your head and in your heart out and onto a piece of paper. I want you to do that first. Write it all down. Take your time. Don't rush through this process. If you can only think of one or two, that's fine. Think of one or two, but give it a day or two, sleep on it, come back and revisit this list. When I first time in recovery, when I was going through the secrets inventory, it took me a week or more for me to just really start pulling all of these things out. Now, here's what I want you to do after that. Find a safe, godly person. If you're in a situation where you don't have and you don't know anybody who's a safe, godly person to go through this, then find a therapist or a counselor who is aware of addiction recovery. Most of them are able to kind of help you through this process. Reach out to me if you want me to join you in this process too, to start working on uncovering and getting these things out. I'm here for you if you need it. But share them with someone who's grounded, someone who's trustworthy, someone who's gentle, empathetic, godly, kind, someone who can just like hold that space for you and just listen. In other words, you need to find somebody who can be a container, right? Because in essence, like working to get all of our secrets out is like filtering that septic out of that glass of water. And once you filter it out, you need to go somewhere with the septic, right? You need to put it somewhere. You need to remove it. And so find someone who can be that container, per se, quote unquote, container, to receive those secrets. And as you get them out, you got to do it out loud. You actually need to talk about it. You need to say those words. Here's something, you need to say the words, here's something that I thought I was going to go to my grave over. And for the first time in your life, you're sharing them. There's healing in that, brother. I'm telling you, there's freedom in that. If you don't deal with your secrets, they're going to deal with you. They're going to deal with you. So if you have a question, shoot me a message. I'm on Instagram, hands like hide. I just want to share with you that you have what it takes. You're worth it. You're always welcome. You are not a disappointment. It doesn't matter what you've done. You're not a disappointment. You may think it. You may think you are. If people really knew, they wouldn't love me. They wouldn't accept me. I can tell you right now, that's a lie, because you are acceptable. What you've done in the past has definitely helped shape who you are today, but it doesn't define your future. You can choose differently moving forward. So make that choice. Get that pen and paper. Start making that secrets inventory. Get that septic water out of your heart. This is Hands Like Hide. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.